Welcome to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. I'm your host, renowned sex and relationship coach, Amanda Testa. And if you are looking to reclaim your sexual desire, take sex from a to-do to something you look forward to, and enjoy deeply connected relationships without adding more to your already full plate, then you are in the right place. Listen in to discover how to fan the flames of your feminine fire, fall in love with your sensual self again, and experience intimacy like never before, all in a way that feels really good to your system. Make yourself comfortable and enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Testa. This is my wonderful husband, Mark.
Hello.
And today we are here to talk about how to avoid just going through the motions in your relationship. This is a very common thing, and I get it. Some of the things that couples complain about the most are, number one, feeling disconnected, right? Maybe complaining about the frequency of having sex, having mismatched libidos, which I have a lot to say about, lack of emotional connection, what happens when you feel like you're going through the motions, trust issues, body issues, especially after transition, having a baby, going through life transitions, illness, lack of time, sexual dysfunction, not feeling desired, unsure how to initiate, too busy with life, work, kids, etc. Lack of connection, lack of time, difficulty expressing needs, all these things. All right. These are some of the really common complaints that I often hear. And I know what it feels like to just go through the motions, because I feel like we're kind of in a little winter of our relationship right now, because I was out of town for 2 weeks teaching retreats, and that was amazing. And then I was sick with COVID, which has not been amazing. And I'm finally like getting back on the horse also. We've had zero alone time. Zero.
Maybe less.
And so it's been a little bit of a not very hot and sexy summer. I mean, in some ways it has, and in some ways it hasn't. But it's very interesting too to feel that shift of being, I was in Costa Rica teaching retreats. One of my gigs is I'm a senior teacher for one of my mentors, Layla Martin, where I did my first training in the Vita coaching certification, which is a 650-hour training on being a sex, love, and relationship coach. And so now I teach the coaches, and we had an amazing retreat. So we have 100 students each week, and really we're teaching them a lot of the embodiment tools they learned during the program. But for me, what I always love seeing is just that reconnection coming home to ourselves and our bodies, and how powerful that is. And then how, when you can have that kind of connection with yourself, it's so much easier to share with a partner. And so I was so excited coming back, feeling great. We went to Red Rocks. We did have a date. That was pretty fun. Although it was kind of, I feel like always the reentry after being away, because Mark travels a lot too for work. It's sometimes rocky.
Yeah. It's not always easy.
So we were kind of a little bit grouchy when we were going. And then that night I got home and I was like, oh, my throat hurts. And I thought it was just because there was someone smoking cigarettes in front of me. And then I get on the group text of people at the retreat, and they were all going down COVID. I was like, oh man. But thankfully, much better now. Feeling back to myself. And so now we're like, okay, how can we celebrate? Because guess what else is happening this week?
What?
What's happening on Wednesday?
Oh, our anniversary. It's our anniversary. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. It's 14 years. It's pretty awesome.
That's great.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I love you still.
I love you still too. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
It feels like the time flew.
Yeah, it does. Can't believe that. Wow.
I love that I still love to look at you.
Right? I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. And I want to spend more time with you.
Same here.
But we got to figure out some new babysitter childcare situations. Our daughter's of the age where she doesn't really like camp anymore, but she still kind of doesn't want to stay by herself. And we're trying to find ways to entertain her. But it's hard because now we're all three at home, all working from home, and trying to entertain her and
not connecting.
I mean, some things about it are fun, but I feel like very much isolated in mom mode, right? Which is hard.
Yeah.
So we got to come up with some fun ideas. And this is what I thought this would be a great thing to talk about, because I'm sure we're not alone in this. Summer is busy. Everybody's got a million different things going on. Maybe you're like wrangling kids. Maybe you're wrangling to and from camp, but also it's just a different schedule. And I feel like there's kids up later. There's just not as much alone time. And so you got to really be creative and staying connected when you don't have any alone time, especially when your kids don't really want to give you that. And I think that depending on the age of your children, it's good to just start talking to them about that and just saying how important it is that you have alone time with your partner. I do talk with her about that a lot is, when you're older, you'll know, but you'll want to spend time with the person that you are with because you got to keep that connection alive. And if we want to stay together and happy, we got to spend time together, right? Because it's very easy to just drift apart.
Yeah.
And you have to catch it when it starts to happen.
Right. And we know all these things that have happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's important to us to glue it back together.
We do a really good time when we are apart, when we're traveling, because we do a lot of FaceTiming, a lot of flirting over text, a lot of fun things that we like to send to each other just to stay connected. And I think that's really fun. And so there are ways to do it. But then again, I think that our kiddo was in camp, so there was more freedom on your end.
Yeah.
I was obviously teaching, and so I didn't have a lot of breaks. But when I did, I'm by myself, right? And so that makes it easier. It's really the challenge is when you don't have any time, which I get because that's one of the big complaints people have. Like, I'm so busy, kids are always around, never have any alone time. And it changes depending on the age of your children, right? Because maybe when they're little, you're just depleted and physically exhausted. When they're older, you're mentally exhausted, or they're staying up and you don't have any space where you are apart.
So I'm going to help Amanda wash her hair today.
We were watching, so one of the shows that my daughter loves is Young Sheldon. And it's so funny because there's a character in there, and his name is Billy, but they're all like hanging out in the backyard, and they're like, "Where are your parents?" He's like, "Oh, they're in the bedroom kissing." That's great, right? That's what more parents need to spend time doing.
Exactly.
So now, what can we do about it? So first of all, focusing on connection any way you can get it, right? So it can be hard because our schedules are drastically shifted in the summertime. When our kiddo's in school, we have a pretty good routine. Like, we each get up and have our little morning routine that we do. Then we have some time together. Then we get the kid ready and out and all those things. And then it's work. And then after school, we have more of a routine. But now we're kind of trying to figure it out because everybody's getting up at different times. We're going to bed later. So I'm sleeping in a little more, which is not ideal, but it's sometimes lovely. Because I realize having that alone time in the morning is so key, right? But sometimes I just want my sleep too. And that I feel like in the summer, I give myself permission. I'm very lucky that I have a flexible schedule, that I can do that many days. But one of the things we've been doing is, instead of like being separate in the morning, is we kind of hang out together and have coffee.
Coffee talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Usually we separate, but since we have not had much alone time, we've been hanging out together a little bit more in the morning, having coffee, trying to spend some more time together that way. This is fun. We've been spending more time in the kitchen together, preparing some meals.
Mm-hmm. Walks. Usually our kiddos with us too, but that's okay. Going to the coffee shop.
Right.
Like, these are the kinds of things. I think the other thing too is we really love spending time outside in nature.
Yeah.
So we're one of the families that bought the COVID pool. The above ground COVID pool. And we didn't put it up last year. We're like, let's put the pool up again. And it's actually been fun to just hang out there. And we can hang out and have a conversation while our kiddos enjoy themselves in the pool.
Right.
So that's been good, right? So it's like, what can we do to entertain them that gives us some privacy? Also, meditating together. We're going to go meditate. And that is at least where we can go in the bedroom and like flirt and talk and have a little privacy.
I think that is another great thing we love doing, is laying in our bed and talking.
Mm-hmm.
Just laying on top of the bed and talking to each other and reconnecting that way. It's a nice, easy way to connect and easy entry. And I love that.
Because I think that's one of the things, when there's that lack of emotional connection, it can make the intimacy feel even harder.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we were both feeling that way being gone. And then when I was sick and just like kind of isolated in the bedroom, and then it makes you feel depressed, right? Like yesterday, I could tell that we were both feeling kind of depressed.
Right.
Because that happens. Like, if we both love physical connection, and if we don't have enough connection, then we both kind of feel depressed. Because it's like biological need in some ways. And I think it's like there's this lovely chocolate cake right in front of you, but then there's like bulletproof glass and you can't get to it. It's very hard.
And I think not even just depressed either. I mean, that too, but disconnected, and then not as loving and kind to each other as you should be, because you're already at an arm's length away. So what's a little more? Too easy to do.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Amanda. If you are enjoying the show and felt a connection to what we've discussed, and you're ready to take the next step in reigniting your passion and enhancing your relationships, I have something special for you. Visit www.amandatesta.com/thegoods, where you can subscribe to my email. And if you want, you can sign up for a free personalized sensuality discovery session with me. In this one-on-one heart-to-heart session, we'll explore your unique desires, uncover any challenges, and set a path for you to experience the vibrant, fulfilling love life you deserve. Don't let another day pass feeling unfulfilled or disconnection. Take action now, and let's start this beautiful journey together to fire up your feminine fire. Join me at amandatesta.com/thegoods. I'm excited to stay connected. Now back to the show.
And then the other thing that we fall down the trap of is being on our phones too much in those times.
Yeah.
Right. And we were talking about it. We were at a barbecue with some friends the other day, and we were laughing how that's the bummer about always having the phone, is that you're always looking down, or you're always trying to check something, or you're always go down some rabbit hole. You're like, oh, this thought popped into my head, and let me get on my internet and find out this. Like, I haven't. And we're just laughing like, oh, I haven't seen Almost Fired in a really long time. Let me go. What's going on with Brooke Shields? Like just the random rabbit holes you go down, and you realize like 20 seconds and then evaporated, when you could actually have a way better way to spend the 20 seconds or 20 minutes, like by connecting. And even if that's like doing a project together or something,
Right.
like I know that can feel kind of dorky at times, but even just having a crafting project, something to do that's meditative to get your brain out of the thinking, that you can then talk.
Right.
Right. Or even listening to a podcast together and doing something where you can like co-regulate yourselves.
Yeah, that worked out pretty good yesterday. We were all in the same room kind of doing our own thing, but together and co-regulated. And it was fun.
Yeah.
And I know we do work on projects together a lot that way. It's fun. And I think it's important, like you said, put down the damn phone.
Yeah. I think that's a great challenge for everyone to try, is like just not even have it in another room. So often when we go on walks or when we go on a date, we'll like leave our phone in the car, and that makes such a difference. And you realize how hard it is.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly like looking. Or Mark has an Apple Watch, and so if he has a notification, he'll look at it, which I don't have an Apple Watch, thankfully. But I think that could be sometimes frustrating to me. And it's also been proven so many times that like that just lack of presence, people feel it. Whether it's your partner or your kid or whoever you're with, it's just kind of rude, right? It's definitely a new social norm that is very rude.
It's very rude. I hate it when you're on your phone and so disconnected. And I get it. You focus really deeply. And I know Mimi doesn't like it. And it's just like a wall between you, even though you're sitting next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
You're just obviously not paying attention.
Yeah. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. And people do it all the time. And even at night, I notice so many people will tell me that like they go to bed, but then they're just on their phones or not connecting. And I really do advise, like, this is something we're good at, is having an electronic free zone in the bedroom, because for numerous reasons, it helps you sleep better, this, that, and the other. But just that is a place where there's no screens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been great. We never bring phones into the room.
Yeah.
It's been great.
And we don't have a TV in the bedroom either.
We don't even have TV in our upstairs living area.
We don't watch very much TV.
So that's been good too.
But occasionally it's nice to like chill out and watch a movie or something.
Yeah.
But we just don't do that a lot. I mean, we're of the age too, where if we wanted to watch an adult movie, then it's going to take me like 2 weeks and 10-minute increments that I have, which is very rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's normal. But I also want to just say that it's normal to have these seasons. And I think just realizing it's not forever can help you get through it more easily, because it can be really easy to get stuck in the cycle of like, well, now we're just in this cycle. So what do we do? Like, or it's just easier, and you do disconnect in that. And it's part of it is self-protection in a way. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, for sure. A little bit of self-protection. And then it just keeps getting easier to pull back, which is a sad thing. And so it's important, I think, to talk about it. We talk about it. You brought up some other topics earlier on this live as well, or whatever we're doing.
Podcast.
About libido mismatch or maybe erectile dysfunction. I think those are important things to talk about. I think for men, they don't talk about these. I mean, I don't talk about this with my friends, or they don't talk about it with me. I bring it up, but they don't always want to talk too much about it. But I've treated a lot of men with erectile dysfunction. A lot of times it comes down to some simple supplements. I don't want to like minimize it or make it seem like it's that simple, but sometimes zinc, very important, or magnesium, very important. Or if you smoke very important because it's going to constrict blood flow to the small blood vessels, those sorts of things. Other things too, I think that are really important too, that need to start being addressed rather than just taking a pill is if you're overweight, men, belly fat releases an enzyme that breaks down testosterone, and belly fat can release estrogen. And so you're already now lowering your testosterone, increasing estrogen. There's a lot of physical things that would be beneficial. Getting out and exercising. We know that when you exercise, it makes new blood vessels grow. So same thing. When I think bringing things like this to the surface, rather than, well, what naturally happens where you just grow apart and stop talking about things, and now you're distant, and now you're not feeling close, and now you don't feel like you want to share, and now you don't feel like being vulnerable.
Yeah. I will speak to that a little more because I know with the clients that struggle with erectile dysfunction, it's a big deal because there's a lot of shame around it, which it's very normal for. And so I think
first it's of all, common. It's not.
That's true. It's common. It's not normal, but it's very common. And I think that can be really hard for couples if they're having that problem because there's often a lot of shame and a lot of men don't want to talk about it. So instead, they're more likely to avoid intimacy or not talk about it or have shame around it. And I think there also can be underlying health conditions. So it's really important if that's going on is to get seen by a doctor and ruling out any kind of heart condition or cardiovascular health, that there can be a lot underlying there. And I think people are often just like, oh, well, I can just take a Viagra. And that's not always going to work. Those pills are just a Band-Aid and they don't often solve the underlying issues because there's often other things at play, right? It could be health, it could be emotional, it could be stress. So there's other factors at play. So if it's something that's going on, then I would urge you to talk about it and to get support because it's very easily curable if you get help. And I think a lot of times the shame is like what keeps people from doing it, but there's so many solutions out there. And so, first of all, if that's something that you're struggling with, then know that that's a common thing and there's lots of great solutions out there, right?
Yeah.
And I think the older you get, the more you have to take care of your health. I know that's annoying, but it really is true because our sexual health is a huge part of our overall health and wellness. And I know as I'm in the perimenopause age, there's all kinds of crazy things that go on with your hormones and your mood and everything. And so I've made a lot of shifts in my diet and just things that are not really fun to give up that I've given up to feel better. And in some ways it's working and in some ways it's still challenging. But I think those are kind of the hard things that you have to look at your life and realize like we aren't here forever. And my goal is longevity. My goal is to be the best I can in this life that I am in right now. And that includes with all the challenges or struggles, it's like being creative and finding solutions. So whether that's being creative and finding solutions to have deeper conversations with your partner about challenges in your sex life or going to seek help, which is then again hard. We'll do another whole podcast on this because I'm going to have a whole season coming up on just like perimenopause and menopause challenges. But just like you have to do your research and you have to really be proactive. That's one of the things that I credit Mark for is when we first got together, obviously he's in healthcare and really opened my eyes that you have to do your own research and you really have to vet your healthcare providers. You have to do your own work to stay healthy and vibrant.
Absolutely. And I think sexual health is a canary in the coal mine. It's a big indicator of what else is going on in your body and something to pay more attention to rather than look for just a symptomatic relief, but to look for more of a root cause. And I think your point, like the older you get, the finish line, you feel it. I feel it is closer than it's ever been. And I don't want it to come fast. And so you have to really invest in healthy longevity, which is not a bunch of supplements or specific diets, but frequency of exercise and sleep and not too much alcohol and social connection with your partner and things like this. These are the important things that really move the needle that help people age healthily.
Yeah. And that's one of the beautiful things about being in a partnership. If you are lucky enough to have a partner that you love, I mean, loneliness is a huge killer and to be able to be connected. And that's the other thing I share with people because it can be really easy to get in a rut and feel sorry for yourself or feel like irritated or that, oh, woe is me. And like realizing you actually have more control than you think a lot of the time. And I think that's one of the things that just kind of stop. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Arthur that I really love, Lika Jolade, and I know I'm mispronouncing their name, but they had a really challenging life and created so much beauty out of their experience going through leukemia. And she wrote a great book called Between Two Kingdoms. And there was just an amazing documentary that she did with her husband, John Baptiste, more about his journey creating the American Symphony. But that's a great documentary. But anyways, I was listening to her talk and realizing like we all have this illusion that we're going to be around forever, and people that have illness or things that make their body not feel as good all the time have more of a connection to what's important because they have limited energy. And we all think we're going to be around forever, but we never know, right? And so I think that is a key thing to keep in mind, not from a morbid standpoint, but because we do have limited time. And if you're with this person, why the hell are you just letting it fade away, right? If you at one point were in love and you had that gift of connection, you can get it back. And I think that it is a work and it takes effort and it takes time, but it is so worth it.
I completely agree with you. I mean, it is so worth it. And if you were in love, you can rekindle that because you're not going to find it in the next place. The same thing is going to show up again and again and again.
Yes, that's so true.
It's not always easy, but it's always worth putting the time and effort into and regaining it.
And then you can heal the things that are in the way. Like we both do our own therapy. We do therapy together. Like we have a lot of work that we do to make our relationship great because this is how we grow. This is how we learn. This is how we evolve, right? Your partner is a mirror to you often.
Right.
So some of the things that might make you crazy, it's an opportunity to look within. And I really love there are some great questions to just pose when those things come up. Right. And I think this is like based from Byron Katie's The Work, but there's certain questions that you can do around projection and kind of changing the narrative a little bit about, oh, they always do this or, oh, they're always like this, and noticing where am I also contributing? And I think there was a great thing that Mark used to always say, if you want more love, give more love. And someone just was asking about, like it was their anniversary and they were asking for some good tips. And I was sharing like, that is so true because we have to be the initiator. Or the initiatrix is what I often say. Because so often, I mean, there's usually one person in the relationship that might have better skills around it. I mean, hello, this is my job. I've been training in this for over a decade, so I had a lot of skills. And Mark's a great guinea pig, and he's always very open. But I know that's a skill that I have. And so I could either sit around and be resentful and being like, well, I know that Mark's going in his shell now, so I'm just going to be pissed too, and we're not going to talk for days. But I know that's not what I want. And I know that time is precious. And so I think too, because my dad died young, that I have a different perspective around that too. And so every time we ever part, I want to make sure that we're on a good note, which I know kind of makes Mark frustrated sometimes, but it's true. Like, I'm like, come over here and let's make up.
No, I mean, I'm grateful you do that because I agree with you. I mean, if we're going to be together, let's make the most of it. Let's not be miserable living together like roommates. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
I don't want that.
No one wants that. So my point being is that if you have the skill of repair, then be the one to repair. Because at the end of the day, it's about harmony and not who's right or who's wrong. But the more that we go about repairing and creating harmonious relationships, the more we get our needs met. And it's not in a tit for tat way, but it's like if I'm serving myself and I'm serving the relationship, we're all going to grow. Yeah. So we each take care of ourselves, but we also realize that a relationship is a living entity as well that we need to nourish and give time to and make space for if we want it to be good. And granted, there are times where you are going to have it on the back burner, but just remember, you don't want it to be back there forever. Yeah. And so that's what we're realizing. Like, okay, this has been ridiculous. I was gone for 2 weeks. Then I was sick as a dog. And then we're trying to come back together. And because we know when it's time to do something drastic, because we don't want to keep going in that distant place. Right?
Which is why I'm going to help you wash your hair today.
Yes. We might have to lock ourselves in the bathroom. And that's okay. Those are creative solutions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do to bring it together, spending time together, finding ways to communicate, little notes, cards.
Yes, that is one thing we love to do is cards, which is really fun. So I would encourage, this is another great easy way you can do it. Next time you're at the store or if you're at like the Perfect Peddler, someplace that's got cards that you love, go buy a bunch of cards and just keep them in your desk drawer. Yeah. And then when you feel the mood, you can just write a little love note. And it is so sweet. And I have to say, I saved all the notes that Mark's given me of theirs, and I love it. And so sometimes if we do feel disconnected, I can go back through and connect to those and be like, oh, I remember how it felt when we were first falling in love, or I remember this. And remembering like that's who we are at our core. And when life throws the imprints on us that disconnect us from that, it's a good reminder that we can come back to that.
And speaking of which, you bring up a good point, like our daughter's birthday is tomorrow. And it's fun to go back and think about what were we doing 12 years ago? This day, and we were so connected, and we still are. It's just it really re-glues everything back together, all the things you've been through, and all the important, meaningful times you've spent together. Nothing more important than having a child.
I think too, that's something to think about too, is because our daughter's birthday and our anniversary are a day apart. And so it's like, okay, now how do we not overshadow our anniversary? Because that has happened in years back too. But I'm like, that's also a huge celebration.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that because we do all this work on ourselves, we still love each other and we still like love to look at each other and spend time hanging out. And we have a really awesome connection physically because we spend time on it. And it's so fun and rewarding and nourishing. And I want that for every single person because it is possible for every single person that sex can feel like an amazing, connective, rejuvenating, restorative experience versus like something that feels like a to-do or just like on the checklist, because that's not fun and no one likes that.
And I think we talk about it a lot and we flirt a lot.
Yes.
And I am always got a sexual something I'm throwing at her in a flirty way. And I think that's fun. And
like to flirt.
It keeps it alive. And it's not really on the back burner. It's
always simmering.
It's simmering on the front burner.
It is simmering.
Yeah.
Because we are very playful. And that's fun. It really is fun. So thank you again for tuning in. And I hope this has given you some ideas if you are feeling kind of in a rut in your relationships and steps you can take. And if you want more support, you can always reach out to me. And thank you so much, Mark, again. Is there any last words you'd like to share?
Make sure you communicate with your partner all the time, even if it feels awkward. Just communicate.
Yes.
Stay calm. Talk in a calm voice. I'm speaking to myself now. But communicate.
Yes. That's another thing that's so key. Yeah. Because once you can talk about it, then you can move through anything, I really feel like. And that's a learned skill, right? So these are all things you can learn and get better at. All right. Well, we will look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much. And have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. If you loved this episode, please go ahead and forward it right now to someone you know would love it. And if you've not had a chance yet to leave us a rave review on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to rate and review if you enjoyed it, as well as make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you want to stay connected, make sure to go to amandatesta.com/thegoods to download your free sensuality activation and stay connected. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.